the Woodpreneur podcast, where sawmill owners and lumber entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Every week, real stories from the timber industry, whether you're starting small or running a big operation. Subscribe for real stories and insights from the industry. Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. I'm your new host, Jennifer Alger, and today we have Vic with the Stump Shop. And Vic's been on before, but not since I've been the host. He was on before with Steve. We're going to catch up today with Vic, find out what's changed since he was last on the show, and get more acquainted with him. And from what I understand, he has the coolest stumps on Instagram. Is that right?
That's correct.
All
Yes. First
right.
of all, thank you, Jennifer, for having me here. It's nice to be back.
Great.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And for those of you wondering, where's Steve? Steve is working on a new podcast. You can go check that out, Designers and Builders. And so we've really kind of separated the podcasts, and I will be focusing more on the sawmills, wood producers, and makerspace over here at the Woodpreneur podcast. And Steve will be working more on the Designers and Builders side of things. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Tell those who haven't listened to the previous podcast just a little bit about your business.
Okay, with pleasure. I mean, it's first of all, when you said that I've been on it before, it takes me back a long ways because I remember the first time I was on the podcast was actually in person. Because had grabbed us at a conference we used to go to at the Workbench conference down in Atlanta every year.
Okay.
And we did one there in person, and then I did another one over the phone. So yeah, I'm glad to be back again. And those that, people that may have followed me or maybe, watched some of my videos and stuff will know that although I've been doing it for now, it's been over 10 years. Other than, the technology and the way that Instagram flows and social media and stuff, really my business, model and my stump shop itself hasn't really changed much. One of the things that I've focused a lot more on in the last, I'd say probably 2 to 3 years is moving away from the custom work, like for customers and where we design, whether it's a table or even just stumps. Some people are very particular about the species and the stains and the finishes, this and that. So I've kind of moved away from that and kind of let, how do I put this? I let myself dictate my own business in terms of doing kind of whatever I want and then offering it up for sale. So that's my biggest change since I've last, spoke with this podcast. But still,
Are you finding that that's as lucrative, or is it just something you want to do more?
so it can be both. And the reason I say that is because having changed my kind of angle in the last few years also allowed me to focus more on working with brands. And I was always big on that on social media. I've always stressed, I always use this example. Let's say I build you a custom table for, we'll just throw out, $3,000 because wood's pretty expensive these days.
Yep.
But that'll take me, let's say, a week or two of working on this table. But then if I can get a brand to sponsor my videos and tell me, listen, I'm going to send you tools or I'm going to send you some wood products and you have to use these in your videos. And they pay a lot more. Brands obviously have marketing dollars and stuff. So that's where I really enjoy tapping into that. And then I would still have that table I'm working on or stump or whatever. So to answer your question, lucrative wise, I feel like it's almost a little bit better this way.
Because of the brand part? Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Because brands will pay more than I can charge customers for items.
And I'm sure the customers appreciate that too.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I noticed, I was looking at your Instagram. I follow you on Instagram, have for years.
Well, thank you.
No, you're welcome. Last time you were on the Woodpreneur podcast, you had around 93,000 followers. And I was looking this morning and you're at 173,000 followers. What could you tell the listeners about how you grew that? And what was it? Was it because of the brands, or what were some of the steps that maybe they could take to grow their business, if you don't mind sharing?
No, I don't mind at all. In fact,
Yeah.
this is a shameless plug for my own podcast. That's where we talk a lot
There
about
you
this
go.
kind of stuff. It's, you know what, maybe I'll announce it here for and no one knows this at all except my podcast partner, Dom, but our podcast is also changing huge these days. We're actually on a hiatus right now while in the background we're working on kind of updating and kind of changing the way we deliver things. And this will tie back to your question about Instagram, social media, and all that. So to grow my following on social media, there is no secret. Like this, the secret is lots of hard work, quality this is just my opinion on my own videos, but quality videos, good content, and consistency. And then the rest will fall into place, right? So I've never, ever from the get-go paid for engagement or ever did any of those, buying followers or
Yeah.
farming followers from all these companies that are offering, pay us this much and you'll get 1,000 real followers. I've never ever done that. Okay. So to grow my following, it really has just been over 10 years of consistent videos. I mean, it started out with pictures, and then that's the other thing. When Instagram or all these other social media platforms decide to change things up, you have to adapt. Even if you don't like it,
Mhm.
a lot of the times I'll be watching a video going, I'm literally rolling my eyes back, going, that's not a trend I'm hopping on. But you almost have to, because otherwise you do get, you get obsolete, you get forgot about, and that's it. And then to grow your social media, you really just have to be there. You have to be consistent and try your best to push through those times when you're in, I don't even like to use the word funk. I like to just say when you're kind of lacking motivation a little, you really just have to find ways to push through it. And if consistency for you, let's say, Jennifer, you can post once a week, perfect. There's people out there posting twice a day. Good for them. If they can do that,
Yeah.
then, just don't burn out. Keep at it. I'll find myself in my stump shop staring at my, sounds funny, but at my stumps and at my wood supplies often just going, what's next? Like, what am I doing next? Right. And then you just kind of come up with something. A lot of the times it'll flop, and sometimes it does really well. And that can lead to growth because, if you go viral, you're growing. And then it can also lead to customers. If it, I know I said I don't do custom work, but if someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I'm interested in a stump, perfect. Then I can say, well, I have these 3 or 4 ready to go. And that next thing you know, so social media presence isn't just to be there and to have big numbers. It means nothing unless you're doing something with it.
Exactly. Yeah. What is your motivation, or what how are you monetizing that, or finding some sort of joy out of it, What is it? Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So do you see a correlation outside of the brands that are, paying? Do you see a correlation between the numbers that you have and the customers that you have?
In terms of like working with brands and doing sponsored videos, so a lot of brands, their following and people that, are interested in those certain brands, I may already have them as followers, or I'll be following those people because really we're both in this niche of woodworking tools. And obviously I've expanded a little bit lately on, 3D printing and laser work and CNC work. It all does tie back, or I could all tie it back to woodworking. But when you do a sponsored post for brands, you'll know, well, I notice anyways, and a lot of people on that have been guests on my podcast, we've talked about this. It's actually detrimental towards your following because a lot of people, whether they're just not interested in that kind of content, oh, another sponsored video, oh, another sponsored video. A lot of people feel like that's not the Vic I started following. What happened, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
they slowly, whether they unfollow this and that, and people very quickly, I'll mention this, but people are very quick to kind of lose out on me when they unfollow based off sponsored posts, because you can never watch Netflix or YouTube or a movie or anything and not get ads. Like it just exists, right? So,
Somebody's paying for this free platform.
well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I know, you and I talked for a minute or two before we started recording how I'm lucky enough that the stump shop for me is a very I won't say very successful, but a successful kind of hobby turned side business. So I don't need to stress over the videos and the brand deals and the customers and stuff because I'm fortunate enough to have a, a full-time corporate career. But
Mhm.
people just are funny when you do a sponsored post. They're like, I've got the messages before saying this isn't who I started following. Another
Right.
sponsored video with like the peace emoji, like saying I'm leaving or something. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, well, good for you. But somehow I gotta
Yeah.
what's the point of doing it otherwise? What's the point of 10 years of free videos
Right.
if there's no
Right.
return, right?
Why are these mega platforms allowing us to be there for free? They're not.
They're not.
They're not.
That's right.
We gotta do a little bit of it. Now, being in business, I'm one that even though if I wasn't in business, maybe I would also want to fast forward through all the ads. But because I'm in business, I love the ads because I want to know what is happening right now. What do I need to do? How do I need to pivot? And I watch other reels or other things to go, okay, what's trending? Some of the stuff, like you mentioned, I'm not hopping on. It's
All
just
right.
it's not me. It's got to resonate with me, but some of it you've got to hop on or you're left behind and you just won't have a following.
That's right.
And I would say for our business, Instagram and Facebook, they're the number two drivers to sales. They're the number, or I'm sorry, the number one drivers to sales. Instagram's number one. Facebook is number two. And without them, I mean, how do you survive? You'd have to come up with something else, or maybe it's that word of mouth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People just, I find, and I don't like to say this because I don't have proof of it, but whether people sometimes maybe are, whether they're frustrated at the way things are going on the platform itself, and then that day they happen to see another sponsored video from this brand or from that person, and that's just their tip of the iceberg where they say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm leaving. I don't need this, right? But I'm
Yeah.
also convinced that if we're not doing brand deals or sponsored videos, Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all of them are still putting in ads in your videos. It's
Oh,
just they
yeah.
won't be you making the money. So then
Right.
why
Right.
not, right? Like,
Yeah. Why not have
yeah,
somebody
that's
you
just,
know and like already making a little piece of that pie? Yeah, I hear you on that.
and it's usually, it has to kind of be, this is something I always preach to. And I still to this day, although they're not massive brands, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to say that, but I still turn down a lot more offers than I say yes to, simply because I don't want people literally going to my feed and, if it's not something that I can make work, like for example, quickly, the last few I've done were like this tool that's a crack cleaner tool, and I clean cracks in logs and in wood. And so I
Mhm.
transferred it to use it in my backyard and cleaned out patio stones. So I made it work. The other one is a tool which I use all the time anyways, and then oils and wood finishes and stuff. So it's not like I'm
Right.
out here pushing makeup or something that I don't literally use just for money. So
Yeah, buy this
people,
lipstick. It'll look great.
right? I know. There's been
Yeah.
ones where I've kind of gone out of my comfort zone a little, but that's
Mhm.
still stressed. Listen, like let's just pick I don't know, a deodorant, for example. Like, hey, listen, sure, that's not my feed, but of
Mhm.
course I wear deodorant. Most humans do. So then I
Yeah.
could make it
And we
work,
thank you.
right? Yes, right. Like the long day in the wood shop without it. So,
Right. Right.
but yeah, people just have to kind of think outside the box a little.
Yeah, yeah. And you gotta wonder, you gotta wonder the type of follower that would get frustrated with something like that. Is that your ideal client? Is that your ideal follower? Maybe not. You hope to not lose any of them, but maybe they're not.
I don't like losing any of them, but if people
Yeah.
are gonna unfollow, then you know what? Listen, if you're gonna unfollow because of that, that's fine. Maybe the next video would have bothered you even more. So that's fine. It's
True.
what it is. I go through my feed too sometimes, and I go through the people I follow once in a while. And
Yeah.
the things I look for, maybe this is a little tip for your listeners, is if someone hasn't updated their feed, and I used to give people like a week and then say like, I'm out of here. They haven't posted in a week. And I've started to realize that's ridiculous because I post like sometimes once a month now. It's just based off life and how
Oh,
busy you are.
right.
So I give people quite a few months now. But if you haven't updated your feed and there's nothing new there in months, and sometimes I found accounts that I'm like, "Hey, I haven't seen this person in a while, and it's been like year. I will unfollow them, nothing personal, but then
Right.
it's just kind of it's like clutter on my feed, which I try to keep clean, right? So like, why would I follow someone who's quit Instagram just like thousands or millions of people have in the last few years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
don't
that
take
makes
it
sense.
personal.
Yeah. Do you study the algorithm changes or stay up on that when Instagram's changing? And if you do, how do you do that?
Well, yes and no. And so I'll explain yes first because I do still follow like, Adam Mosseri. He's like the head of Instagram, does awesome Q&As and lives and stuff, which obviously if you're going to take information about the future of Instagram, it is the best to take it from the person who actually runs it and
Right.
works there and
Who
has
can
the most up
affect
to
it?
date,
Yes.
who can actually make change happen, which
Right.
sometimes, very rarely, he'll take a comment and be like, that's great. I'm going to work on that. And next thing you know, a month or two later, it does get implemented. So that's one way I do it. The other way is just by using my own eyeballs. Like I'll watch what does well, what's trending, and then kind of make it work fit to my content and my feed. But then at the same time, I said yes and no. So let me explain no. Lately, and when I say lately, it's been, let's just say within the last year. I don't know exactly when, but I was just talking to my wife about this the other day where I really, eh, and when I say this should apply to a lot of people because it does ease your stress. You really, really can't focus too hard on the numbers. And I say this knowing that that's very hard for people to do. I understand that. It's something that's going to drive you crazy because you can post the exact same video with the exact same music and exact same voiceover one day. And next thing you know, it gets hundreds of thousands of views or even more, and it becomes shared a lot. And that's what I look for these days is things that people save and things that people share. And so you're thinking, this is awesome. This is doing really well. I'll make my next video in the same format or the same style, or I'll even repost that exact same video 3 months from now when it's starting to die down and it does crap. So you really can't, no one knows the answer. No one knows it. I'm telling you that right now for someone who really did study it for a decade and focused on it and adjusted things and really tried to stay up to date. These days, it just changes so rapidly. And let's focus on Instagram specifically. They have too many features within Instagram that they can't even keep up with. Like it used to be you take a picture and you post it. Now they have like they're dropping features that I didn't even know existed. I'll know it existed when I see the post saying we're getting rid of catalogs, we're getting rid of notes, and I'm just like, what is
Right.
another So it's really hard these days. You just hope these are the things you can control. Good quality videos,
Hmm.
consistency if possible, whether that's once a week or once every 2 weeks. Make good content. Do not complain if you film something. It's dark, it's just terrible. What you're showing doesn't even make sense. And then you get no engagement. So that's one thing you can control, what you're putting on Instagram. Once it's up there and you've done the best you can, see you later. Like just there's no point in trying to sit there and go, all right, if I like this, if I send it to 10 friends, if I comment on my own video, it's going to do better. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Post it. Some will do amazing. Always turn on that feature because you mentioned it a minute ago how Facebook and Instagram are two of the top. Turn on that feature where it automatically posts it to Facebook
Yep.
and then sit back and just, there's nothing you can do. So don't stress about it.
Yeah.
Read about it here and there and, watch some videos. But other than that, let it go.
Right. That's a good point because I was thinking you were talking about one time it just takes off and one time it just flops. We posted something on our business and I posted it, hundreds of thousands of likes, millions of views, thousands of comments, and then posted it 3 or 4 months later. And it's like, I got 100 likes. Yes. It's like, what? Where does that even how does that even happen? So there's something else going on behind the scenes that we can't affect. But then also on the flip side of that, we'll post something that's a little more educational. Maybe it's a picture with some really good facts that people need to know, and I'll post that in there. It's not going to get a lot of engagement because it's a little boring. But it gets the right engagement frequently and people see it and it generates sales. So the millions, did that generate sales? I don't know. But I know that those ones that get the lesser engagement because they just weren't as appealing, I know those generate sales. And so I'm not obsessed with numbers. I'm obsessed with getting content out there. And I appreciate what you said about that as well.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? Especially if your main motivation is, um, making money, which is totally fine. Of course,
Right.
that's probably a big part of a lot of people being on social media. Then that's more important, right? Like, for example, when I turned on that feature to cross share to Facebook, which I don't know why I had it off for so long, but now my Facebook, I don't even use Facebook. I'm not going to lie to you when I say I do not use Facebook. I've never posted directly to Facebook. I don't even know how to use the app. I was on it the other day, like just kind of trying to get used to it and stuff. Excuse me. However, because of that cross posting feature, I just realized I'm up to almost 50,000 followers on Facebook. And
Good
that's
for you.
from not like even using it. But then
Mhm.
also when I go on there, very rarely I'll check my messages. I'm like, wow, there's, 20 messages in here asking, is this product for sale? How can I get this? And because I focus so much on Instagram, I don't check Facebook often. But there you go. If your motivation is to make money,
Mhm.
it went viral on Facebook and people want to buy the product.
Right.
So yeah, I suggest just consistency and then,
Yeah, and you can use the business manager, business suite as well, to where you can check all your messages in one place, and then you don't have to worry about it because I'm the one that would forget to go to Facebook and check them as well if
is
I
that the
didn't have
Meta
it all in
Business
one place.
Suite or something? Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
have that too.
yeah, or they change the name of it all the time, but yes, that's the only way that I can seem to make it make sense. So we have talked about social media quite a bit. What are some other things that you do to market your business? I know it's your hobby, but are there any other things that you do to market your business, or is social media pretty much it?
So I pretty much focus just on social media, and it's
Mhm.
been at least 2 years now, or maybe a year and a bit, where I've even paid for marketing. Like I haven't spent a penny on marketing on the platform itself. There was a few years there where every once in a while I would take a post and boost it. Sometimes those do really well. Sometimes they lead to nothing. But that was one form of marketing. The other one is really just being like I kind of let my own feed market itself. So I don't go out, and a lot of the times I actually hesitate to do any type of marketing or getting my name out there anymore because I am a one man show. And when it comes to products, I sell some digital stuff like plans and stuff, but I really, if I'm going to sell something that I'm building, whether it's a stump and whether it's an epoxy project, I still have to make that. So I really don't want 100 messages. And it's a very privileged, spoiled opinion. I know that, but I don't want those messages because I just hate rejecting people. And then I get overwhelmed with, okay, I got, let's say 10 leads here. Which one
Mhm.
is promising? Which one am I going to do? Which one do I want to do?
Right,
And
right.
then it's just, so I don't really market myself.
Yeah, you'd almost need some automation set up there or it's gonna overwhelm you very quickly. Yep,
Yes. Yeah.
interesting.
And I have still, even like something as simple as my Etsy shop, I've just never taken the leap to transfer. And I know it's very easy nowadays, especially with AI, but I've just never transferred it to my own website. I
Mm,
have my own website, but I just let Etsy do all that for me. They do the marketing. I can click a
right.
button and turn marketing on and off within it. And when I
Mhm.
turn it on, it does really well. It leads to a lot of sales, but then I turn off my shop because I have to work on those sales and I just don't, right? So I
Right, you
can't
don't want your
have it.
pipeline too big. So there's never a part of you that says, "I wanna do this full time." You never plan to leave the corporate I started to say corporate America, but corporate Canada? Yeah.
Corporate Canada, yeah. So I've been with in my other life, my business life, I've been doing it for a long time, almost 23 years, 24 years. And I'm close to that golden package where I can finally just leave it behind, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm gonna leave this early in my life. And also because I see, mainly because of social media and because of my friends circle, it is not easy. People think like running your own business is now I'm going to be well off and stuff, I see how hard it is. I see the
Right.
stress involved with even what's happening now with the, the trade war talk and the tariff talk. So people
Right.
just, I can only imagine something like that hits your business. Or, a few years ago, we had the pandemic. Suddenly it
Mhm.
hits your business. And if that's your only income, man, I see it personally with my
Right.
friends. They struggle. They have to bust their butt twice or three times as hard just to stay afloat, right?
Yes.
So for me, I would love to do this one day full time, but I don't have it in me right now to work from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day and
Oh, is that all it
Sundays,
is?
right? And then the overnight
Right.
work and then
Right.
constantly thinking about it. So
Right. Right. No,
I
that's
would like to do
wise.
it.
And if you're satisfied and content there, that is the best plan for you. I was curious, stumps. I work a lot with urban wood, and our business model is urban salvaged and reclaimed wood. And I've got to think, boy, the stumps, because these arborists, they're not always cutting logs to good saw log lengths. But if you're running a stump shop, my question, where do you get your logs? Hopefully they're coming from some urban wood.
So well, I'd say um 90% of my stumps are through arborists that I work with, and then they'll call me asking, "Hey, I'm cutting this down today." And it's always I trust the arborists on their end that when they're cutting down a tree, they have ethical codes and stuff to follow. It'll only be because it has to get cut down. And like for example, up here a lot
Right.
we have like, a lot of ash wood, which is beautiful to work with because of the beetles and all that. So okay,
Ash
listen, if you're gonna
borer.
cut it
Yeah.
down, ash borers, that's right. So if you're gonna cut that wood down, I'll take a piece, right? Or we have good maple up here. Once in a while, I'll get
Mhm.
a nice, walnut piece and stuff. So that's how I get most of my wood.
Right.
And then because of my presence on Instagram, I have a lot of people that'll message me saying, "Hey, look what the storm brought down," or
There you go.
"I'm cutting this. Are you interested?" And I don't drive too far for wood because I'm lucky enough that I have quite a stockpile also. But if it's close enough and it's a nice tree, then sure, I'll go throw two or three logs in my pickup truck and then
There you go.
start the drying process, which takes a long time.
Yeah, if you're air drying, for sure, especially in a
Yeah.
stump. You figure in dimensional material, if 6 months per inch of thickness in softwoods or 1 inch per or 1 year per inch of thickness in hardwoods, if that's how long it takes to dry dimensional lumber, stumps, oh my goodness.
I have stumps in my shop that have been just sitting there for like 5, 6 years. And
Hmm.
I still stress to my customers, once this is dried, air quotes
Right.
dried, just the heartwood on a stump is almost impossible to dry fully. Like I can't. Even if you put it in a kiln, it won't get anything less than, if you can get it under 10%, that's incredible. But it's just somehow it's impossible for the center of that stump to dry. So what I do is I dry it pretty much to the point where it's not cracking or shifting anymore.
Right.
Then I even move it inside to my
Acclimated.
basement,
Mhm.
acclimate it even further to that indoor environment. And then you'll notice even more cracks and stuff. And then I bring it out, finish it. And then luckily that process has worked out well for me. As opposed to when I first started, I get a fresh log, think, oh yeah, 2 weeks of drying, finish it all, and then suddenly like cracks in half.
Right. Or it won't
So
take a finish, or there's a lot of different things there, or it's got bugs crawling out of it.
bugs are the worst. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So a
Be
lot of a
careful with
lot of
those.
different things. Yep, there. So w- are there any trends that you see in the industry? And I know you're part-time, but are there any trends that you see in the industry that you feel really strongly about? Like mine, urban wood. I feel really strongly we shouldn't waste our wood. What are some of the things you feel really strongly about?
Um, well, I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for stumps, like keeping the piece in its entirety. Because I tell a lot of people when they ask me like, "So what do you mean working with stumps as opposed to any other wood?" And I tell people a lot of the times, how often do you see videos or even in stores wood that has been kept in one piece as opposed to slicing it or milling it or whatever? That's what most people with wood do. So I do like the trend, and I actually have found a few people on Instagram that also work with stumps. And so I started following them, and some of them are overseas. And I always loved seeing that kind of stuff, like
Mhm.
keeping the wood in its entirety. Otherwise, trends wise, we both know that anything wood related is so, it comes and goes, right? Like even something as simple as when I first started woodworking, just like every other woodworker, charcuterie boards and cutting boards and this and that. And that it's not a trend because people use those to this day. They use it.
Right, right.
But I've just noticed that things like that were something like, let's say, a nice walnut charcuterie board. I used
Mhm.
to be able to charge people hundreds, depending on the size, obviously, right?
Right.
Now, like it's being sold at, I don't know if they have this store in the States, but something like a Home Sense, which I'm sure you guys have these, like a Target, for example. Next thing you know, you get a nice hardwood board for like
Mhm.
20, $30, and you're thinking in your head, like, I just can't compete with this. So
You can't
that
find the
trend is
wood
done,
for
right?
that. Yeah, you can't
That's what I mean.
process it. You can't dry it. So it's unreal. Yeah. And that does make it hard to compete. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes it hard to compete a lot. There's been times where I would never do this, and I'll admit this right now, but I've thought about it where you get a nice piece of wood at the store,
Mhm.
and people there that aren't woodworkers, they might not know, like, yeah, look, I bought this board for $20, $30. And in my head, I'm like, damn, that's something I would have sold for like 110 last year, right? But
Right.
there's been times where I've thought of buying that board, refinishing it and putting my
Putting your
my
brand
mark
on it.
on
There.
it, going like and upping the price. But then I start thinking, A,
Yeah.
that's not right. And B, why would that person pay me 100 when they could just buy it for
Right.
30,
They
right?
can just buy it there.
But
How funny.
but
Yeah.
so ultimately, to answer your question, the trend of smaller items
Mhm.
being um big in terms of whether they, well, there have been times where I've made a video on a charcuterie board and that video takes off because it's showing people the process of something. I
Right.
find that trend is kind of done these days. That's just the way I view it.
Right.
So I'm focusing more on um, tackling projects, like bigger projects, and then doing several videos on it. Like for example, I'm pouring it's nothing unique, like it's been done 100 times, but I'm gonna add my own unique spin to it. Like an epoxy table with like a wood slice in it. So that's what I'm working on
Mhm.
now, but I'm gonna break that up into probably 2 or 3 videos by the time I post it,
Right.
adding some cool legs, and then I'm hoping that the story behind it and me, I sell that piece as opposed to
Right.
someone looking at it going like, wow, another epoxy table. Yay. Like for some people, that trend is dead too, right? And some people
Right.
always
Right.
hated epoxy, but I don't know. I think it's cool. It's something different.
It has
And
a
then,
place. It has a place. Yeah.
sure,
So yeah.
we'll see
Very
in 20 years how those tables all look. And
right,
so,
right. Yeah. That I'm and I have some epoxy tables out in our foyer, but for like my main conference table for the pieces I like in my home, I'm like, I need timeless beauty. That those classic pieces. That's more my style. So anything with epoxy in it, I have in a smaller version because I'm like, this is not going to be popular in a while. It's going to look very dated, but for now, it looks amazing. So
it does. Yeah. It blows my mind when I see like massive dining tables done with epoxy. No, I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying that's crazy. What's that going to look like in 10, 15 years with wood movement, right? Versus like a nice kitchen table made out of whatever, oak or
solid
ash
wood.
or something.
Yeah.
That's going to be there forever, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I know you're not in full-time business. I know you've got a great social media following. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom with everybody out there. Is there anything that myself or the Woodpreneur community could do that maybe is a question or something you're struggling with that maybe we could answer? Anything going on there?
So I have put some thought into this, and then I always just unfortunately fall back to what's the goal of any small business? It's
Mhm.
obviously to scale. I'm assuming that's the whole point. Unless someone just does it for
A
minimal
hobby.
interest, or a hobby, kill time, or for fun. But what happens is, and I've seen it happen with several of my friends, which is a great problem to have. But when you start out as a hobby and people start to like it, it's hard to keep it as a hobby because then you start to realize, like, wait a minute, there's some potential here. Whether I just make twice as many things as I used to, or whether I just start giving them out as gifts. But then you
Right.
can't do that forever. You slowly start to go, hey, listen, you like that? Okay, well, I'll make you one for $50 or $100. And then you start to realize there's potential here for growth. Well,
Right.
most small businesses start out I've never heard of any small business start out with the intention of failing or to shut down in a few years.
Yep.
Like that's just, if that's your goal, then that's kind of strange to me. But
You're in the wrong thing.
you're in the wrong thing, right? So I think what's happened with me in the stump shop is I've reached this point where I've just have to self-realize and say, this is the most I could do in this point in my life. In terms of like, I'm still a full-time, obviously full-time dad, full-time corporate guy. I have my own podcast and just everything else that happens in all of our lives, right? Not just mine, but kids are busy doing this and that.
Right.
And, I have a house I have to maintain, just like everyone else that has, whether it's an apartment or a house or wherever you live, that involves work. And so I reached this point on the stump shop where I know it's a good problem to have, but I just don't know where else to go from here in terms of like, I can't at this point hire anyone. I can't grow it any bigger. So I know that, you're offering your assistance and your knowledge to me. I just don't really know how to take advantage of that. I don't know. I've reached this point where I'm just kind of posting.
Yeah, yeah. And almost like have this great retirement business. You're never going to be bored in retirement. You know how so many people just shut down, have nothing to do with retirement. You have this built in. You can keep it small because when you're retired, you're probably not going to want to work every waking hour of the day either. And so
Right.
you probably want to keep it around the same size. I would almost recommend in that situation where you're not wanting to scale like the typical, business because of time constraints, and family's important. Your kids are only little once.
I know. Yep.
So I would almost say, charge more.
Mm.
Sorry, all of the stump shop, the clients, but charge more. And then you're scaling without adding any more time.
Yeah, that's very smart. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
I
That's
mean,
a good tip. Very good.
but then, maybe that's not a direction that you want to go because you're altruistic and just love to share your hobby with the rest of the world. But if you did want to scale it without adding the extra time, that is the only thing I could think of is charge more.
Oh,
Make it
that's
more
okay.
elite. Or even have two different tiers. You've got your everyday common thing, and then you've got your next level thing. And so perhaps that could be something.
Yeah,
Well,
that's awesome. Yeah.
social media, website, how can people contact you? How can people get in contact with you?
So to contact me, it's mainly through social media, and I'm on all of the platforms, but I don't necessarily post often to all of them. But my
Right.
main one, I'd say, is Instagram. So
Okay.
look me up there. It's the Stump Shop. And then you can also just, my email is attached to my bio there. You can send me messages and then, we can chat. If there's something you're interested in, I know I said I don't take custom pieces, but I do like to work with people in terms of like, hey, I'm making this epoxy side table. What do you want in it? Like, I've done ones with like spent ammunition casings, coffee beans,
Right.
Hot Wheels, Legos, you name it. So if
Right.
someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm I don't know, a golfer. Can you make one with golf balls,
Oh, there you go.
tees? And I'd be like, perfect. That would be cool. It's a golf stump, right? So there I would work with someone and figure that out. But yeah,
Very
anyways,
cool.
that's how people can reach me, the stump.
Yeah, so they can follow you on the Stump Shop on Instagram, and remember, he's got a full-time business, so don't message him too much.
Yeah. If I don't get back to you within a day or two,
Right.
I'll definitely get back to you as soon as I
Eventually.
can.
Great, great. All right. Well, Vic, nice getting to know you. Thank you so much
Same.
for being on the podcast. And what's your podcast if people want to jump over there and follow that?
Yeah, so we're in the midst of a little bit of a transition, but for now it's still out there. It's called For the Gram, For the Gram podcast. People used to say, do that for the gram, when Instagram was still the number one thing. So
Right.
that's another reason we're kind of in a little bit of a changeover because we realize that things get dated. Things just
Right.
need to be updated. And the direction our podcast went 5 years ago was amazing.
Mhm.
And then it slowly became one of 1,000 doing the exact same thing, right? Even though we were first to market, I feel like we had there
Good run.
was for a good run, but we're not done. We're just transitioning, and we've gone from 3 hosts to 2 hosts. People's lives change, this and that, so that takes a
Right.
little bit of getting used to also. But it's most likely, I'll give the name here. It's just going to be called the Vic and Dom Show because
Okay.
so the Vic and Dom show coming soon. We're going to talk a lot more about just woodworking and social media. It'll be a little bit about everything, and we hope to see you there. But thank you so much for having me on here. I appreciate it. And
Of course.
fun.
Yeah, and thank you for being on the Woodpreneur podcast. And those of you who enjoyed this podcast and want to watch more, subscribe, go to Spotify or wherever you watch your podcasts. And we will see you next time. Have a good one.